Welcome, everyone. For those of you calling or watching from the US, happy Labor Day. We, of course, work on holidays because that's how you get ahead. But I have a very special guest for you today. Josh Chin's a good friend of mine. He does some incredible work with email and SMS. He has an email and SMS agency. Um, they've done over 200 million in sales, which is an incredible number for the brands that he works with. And so I'm really excited to bring him in for you guys today to bring you some insight on his world and everything that he has going on. So without further ado, Josh, my man, thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. So yeah, just tell them a little about what you have going on and a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Josh Chin. I run Kronos Agency, and we're a specialist agency, which means we do only one thing, and we do it pretty well. And that's email and SMS for e-commerce businesses, primarily in the mid-market, small mid-market space. So most of our clients are bootstrapped businesses, just like most of you guys are. So there's a lot of empathy that takes place in our conversations. It's been an awesome ride. It's been 7 years, well, 6, 7 years, depending on how you look at it. And that's all we're focused on for that period of time. And the team's decent size. We have about 82 employees, including myself. I'm an employee too, in my own company. So that's pretty cool. You know what, that's a good place to start. I like to think about it that way. Like I'm still an employee in my own company, and I don't get too cocky until I fire myself and put in place someone that's better than me at what I do, and then I can step away and be a business owner and like a true entrepreneur. So until then, employee.
Until then, laboring away. And what
Laboring
got you
away.
into the
Yeah.
marketing space? How'd you originally get into email or even think about owning an agency?
So back in 2016, I'd say, I got my hands and feet wet in the eBay ecosystem. Uh, Sold a couple of things on eBay, got curious, and it made me my first pot of, well, not exactly gold, but a little bit of money. And being in school, being a university student in college, it was everything. It was amazing. It was more money
Right.
than I've ever seen in my life, right? And so I took that very little money that I had, and initially I was like, all right, I'm going to compound this money, and I'm going to make as much money as I can from this money. I'm going to be just like Warren said, compound interest. But what I did not realize was that $1,000 isn't a lot of money to begin with, and you kind of need to make more money before you could make money for our money. So I took that and spent it the best way that I could, that I thought in my mind back then was going to give me the highest ROI possible, which was in my education. So I bought a bunch of courses, um, and books, and online tutorials. I joined little communities, and the agency domain is one that I wish was around when I first started out. This would have
Same.
been so cool. And yeah, and Zach, I know that you're building what you wish you had when you first started out. So kudos to you. And soon things took off as I educated myself and reinvested in myself. So whenever I get a chance to give back and speak with people that are, maybe a step or two before where I'm at right now, or even ahead, because we all take different paths, I'll take the opportunity to give back.
Awesome. I love that. Well, you've prepared a little bit of something for the community today, which is
A little
super
bit of
awesome
something,
because I know
something.
that you have some awesome insight on your field specifically. So I'm excited for you guys to hear this. If you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop those in the chat and I'll be interrupting him as well for different questions that I have. But if you guys can hear and see us all right, do me a favor and drop either a one or some stakes in the chat. Let me see some stakes in the chat if you can hear and see us all right. And then we will pull up this presentation and get everything rocking. But I just want to make sure that everything's all crystal clear before we get rocking. I know I saw a few of you guys before put some stakes in there. The new trend, Kang, Arian, love to see you guys here. Ahmed, Harlem the Sheikh, El Rod. Thanks, guys, for coming out. Love the steaks. Make sure you have one of those for dinner. That's what I'm having. All right, I'm going to pull up your presentation for you.
Sounds good. All righty, so let's go. This is going to be a presentation jam-packed with insights and ideas that we have kind of extracted from the trenches, as you call them, and essentially ideas and insights that we have learned through first-hand experience. Right. So, jumping into it, I'm Josh Chin, co-founder and CEO at Kronos. We've made over 210 million. I think the number's a little bit outdated now, but we make probably 9 figures a year, kind of trailing 9 figures a year right now for businesses that we work with. We are close partners with Klaviyo, Postscript, Attentive, Tapcart, Post, and many more. If you're in the e-commerce space, these are pretty much all of the small mid-market tech partners that you really want to be around with. And we'll start things off with a cool little case study. How about that?
Let's do it.
The Udi. How many of you have heard of the Udi, legendary D2C business based out of Australia? Really, really cool business. When we first started working with them, they were making about 30 mil a year. And they were working with a couple of agencies. One of them was an email agency, and Davey, founder, felt that they weren't maximizing the opportunity that they had on hand. So he came to me and through a referral, and he told me that, look, I know I'm leaving money on the table. I want my email channel to do a lot better than what it is currently. And I sell one core product, which is this oversized hoodie blankets called the Udi. And I'm like, really? Do people buy more than one? And he goes like, yeah, repeat purchase rates at that point in time, I believe it was like over 20%.
Oh, wow.
I was like, that's crazy. Anything above like 5%, I'd be surprised. 20%. And it's way higher now, right? It's built this massive cult following of the Udi livers. And so we realized that the list just wasn't growing as fast as we like it to. Emails weren't getting open, looking a little bit spammy, there were high-end subscribes, and they're just not seeing the results that they wanted from email. So in 9 days, we effectively more than tripled place order rates, 25x increase in unique clicks, and we went from 16% of revenue coming from emails to 30% of revenue coming from emails. And here's what we did and what we learned. This is a fun one. We made the highest converting pop-up that Klaviyo has ever seen in the year 2020, in the first year of working together with the Udi. And this is it. If you go into the udi.com, you'll see something that's similar. I think it's a different variation now, but the core of it is still the same. And that's us. And this at that time was revolutionary because no one has seen anything that looked like this. Now it's pretty commonplace. We used Klaviyo's pop-up form feature. We ran a ton of A/B tests to figure out what worked for each territory because they had multiple stores across multiple countries. And this in particular worked because of a couple of reasons. One, the CTA stood out, clear color contrast. So that stood out to you kind of first thing when you see the copy. There was a person wearing the Udi, that lady. It looks like she's about to hug you, right? Popping out of the screen. So that stood out. When it did pop, it stood out so much that it captured attention instantly. It was a nice little standout. And the color scheme worked really well in terms of design elements. The color scheme stood out from the muted background of the website. And this was great. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we relied on data to make our decisions on what direction to take. And ultimately, A/B testing is the way to go, right? You have to A/B test, discover insights via the data that sits within your audience, drives better conversions, higher revenue, and ultimately happier customers because content is much more personalized. So when it comes to building your list, a couple of things to take note of here. If you run email programs for your clients, you want to make sure that your pop-ups and your lead capture forms are tailored to the different segments of your customer and prospective journey, right? Which means new customers should see a different pop-up from existing customers if you're targeting existing customers. The timing of your pop-up, as well as how it's triggered, exit intent, customers who've visited more than once or twice but never placed an order, customers visiting specific websites, or VIP customers with higher lifetime value should all see different pop-ups. Now, next up, we had a little bit of a spam problem here. Emails were not inboxing. They were not landing in the right inboxes. And everything else that we did was irrelevant if the messages weren't delivered. What we did was we reduced the number of links in each campaign, kind of picking just one CTA to stick with and having that consistent and coherent across the entirety of the campaign. Reduce the number of images. This was a big thing back in 2020. Now, not so much, but still relatively relevant, I'd say. Keeping text to image ratio at 65-35 was really important for us. And having a Gmail only strategy, because Gmail is a little bit picky with how they treat domain reputation. So what we did was we had Gmail isolated as a segment, and emails that ended with @gmail.com was treated separately from the rest of the list. We made sure that open rates, click rates, and engagement metrics were kept at a very excellent level because it's really sensitive on how Gmail treats deliverability. And obviously, we optimized and compressed all images on the campaigns. And then we looked at conversion rates. Right now that our emails are landing in the right inboxes, getting seen, now it's all about conversions. We overhauled flows and campaigns, had uniform designs, optimized emails across mobile and desktop, making sure that content and copy were engaging. Flow optimizations and campaign testing were done on a consistent basis. And over time, we've built this playbook that's unique and built only for the UDI, which is really, really cool. The more you do this, the more you get to understand your brand and your audience, and the better your campaigns are going to get. And ultimately setting up the right triggers, flows, as well as segmentations that we spoke about for campaigns. So what this looks like before, not too bad, but could be better. After, here's what it looks like. So way more consistent, way more engaging, right? When you open up an email, you see this, your attention is going to be captured immediately for a couple of reasons. One, there was a clear CTA button. We experimented a little bit with the countdown timers as well. So that worked out really well. And we experimented with featuring products up and center in our emails. And we did a bunch of split tests as well. So key learnings here, good deliverability means better engagement, and it's first thing in everything else that you do in email. Small tweaks can make a massive difference in results, and always be testing. You never know what you're going to get until you test.
When you're doing different testing, are you testing like completely different creatives, or just the text, or like the calls to action, or all of the above?
Love that question. Love that question. It's all of the above, but one at a time. Let's say that again. It's all of the above, but one at a time. You cannot be testing all variables all at once and have two completely different looking emails side by side, because you're not going to learn anything from it. The biggest mistake that I see that brand owners and agency owners make with testing is that they're testing way too many variables and they cannot attribute the outcome to a specific change that they've made in the variation. And that's pretty worthless, right? Even if you got a better result at the end of the day, you're not learning anything from it. And the next time you run a campaign, you don't know why. You're going to repeat the whole thing again. So what you want to do is pick one variable, and I recommend starting with what's top of funnel. In the email world, that's going to be subject lines, because that's going to determine how much you get opened, and then preview text coming in second, and then the headline of the email, as well as the top of the fold hero image. So that's kind of the sequencing of testing. And speaking of testing, I'm going to jump across here a little bit. Australia Furniture Warehouse, amazing business, very resilient, but they were struggling during COVID-19, and we had to explore new tactics, and that's where we got really creative to avoid business closure. In a year, we had amazing results. They thrived through COVID, and they've eventually found a wonderful outcome. I believe they're also in discussions of finding a new partner, potentially exiting the business as well. So great outcome. Here are some key things that we learned. I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit because I wanted to highlight this. When you run a sales event, instead of going straight for the kill, 20% off everything on site, go get your stuff right now. What we did was we delayed our gratification a little bit by building up hype through a series of emails that started with what you're seeing on your screen right now. Are you ready to say outdoor weekend sale? Mark your calendar. Right? Mark your calendar. That's it. That's all it takes. Mark your calendar, and then that takes the recipients to a calendar event. They click save. It shows up on their calendars, and it's there. It's free real estate. If you think that, if you think that your emails are not getting opened up, you're probably right. It's, 70% of people that you send emails to are not seeing your emails. They're not clicking through. They're not opening it up. But when it appears on calendars, I'm not sure how many of you guys do this, but I live by my calendar. If it doesn't show up on my calendar, it's not on my mind. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Yeah, it didn't happen. So what better way than to show up on your customers and prospects' calendars? So that's step one, right? In this case, this was combined with a real-time in-person event. What we did was we had the event marked on calendars, and then as we came closer and closer to the date itself, we had a series of emails that build additional hype, recommendations of products. And what we did was we identified a key segment of customers and prospects who have shown significant interest and intent, and gave them a surprise VIP offer ahead of the crowd. And so what that did was, while we're building all this hype, people were getting excited, and the most excited of them all were getting special offers. It doesn't always have to be a discount. It could be a bundle deal that's only exclusively available to them, or other creative means. And what we found was that in the VIP segment kind of time frame of this entire series of emails, we've generated more money than the actual launch itself. How cool is that? So you're making all that money, and then the launch gives you a little bit more gravy off the top. And so that's a cool little tactic that we deployed that allowed us to 7x revenue from sales events like these, versus like a typical, here's 20% off everything off store.
So this was an in-person one, correct? Where they actually had to show up to the store. Have you ever tried this strategy of like marketing it on your calendar of doing a sales event that was a virtual sales event, where it was just like a 2-day thing on their website?
100%. If you have, and here's what I'll say. If you have an app, right? If you use a tool like TapCart, for example, so TapCart is essentially an app builder for Shopify, and it essentially duplicates your Shopify store in a mobile app. And you might think, why do I need a mobile app? I have a mobile site. It's completely different, right? When you have a mobile app that lives on your customers' iPhones and Androids, it lives on their phones, which means that push notifications can be sent for free. For free. And that's super, super powerful, because there's only so many push notifications that go out in every day versus the hundreds and hundreds of emails that go into your customers and prospects inboxes every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And push notifications are really cool because it's interactive, and it could be set up in a way where tapping on a push notification triggers a series of things that happen on Klaviyo. So you could go multi-channel. So if this, then that, if push notification was not clicked on or tapped on, email XYZ can be sent, SMSs XYZ can be sent. So what we did
this
was,
app is called TapCart, right? Someone's asking
TapCart.
for TapCart.
TAPCART, exactly. And a cool little strategy they could deploy is you could identify your best customers and have them go onto the mobile app and release products only on the app for the first 24 to 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be product launches, sales, virtual flash sales, other forms of events that it's only available on the app. And that's going to funnel a lot of attention onto your mobile app on top of email, on top of SMS. And the reason why you want to do that is the more channels you're engaging your customers and prospects on, the stickier they're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And the more they're going to purchase. The more opportunities of touch points that you have, the better the relationship's going to be. And that's a big one. Now, moving on to more tactics and ideas here. You gotta get them clicks. At the end of the day, what matters in the email are clicks. That's it. Only clicks. Everything else, I consider a vanity metric. Even revenue, because revenue, frankly speaking, might sound cool, generating 200, 300 mil a year, for clients. But the truth is, most of the heavy lifting is done by the site and the landing pages and the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
What email does really well is generating traffic that's highly, highly converting. Out of every single audit that I've done, every single time, email traffic converts 2 to 3 times minimum higher than the average conversion rate on site. And that's a fact. So what you want to do is maximize conversions by maximizing clicks. With this business, this is a cool one. The average click rate was at approximately 1%, and that's what you typically see. If you go into Klaviyo, if you're using Klaviyo for your clients or yourself, you probably see a click rate across your campaigns at 1%. Our average for this account was right around 3%. Might not sound like a lot, but effectively, this meant 3xing the eyeballs on your offer and 3xing your gross profit, because you're not spending any additional ads, any additional money on ads. So in order to accomplish this, first and foremost, deliverability, the boring stuff, get that right out the way. You got to look at Google Postmaster. That's a free tool. Sign up, go figure it out, where you sit in the reputation group. And what you want to have at all times is a high domain reputation. If you're not starting at high, you're going to be in trouble, because majority of users are using Gmail. That's the dominant player in the ISP space. You need to fix this. If you're facing trouble with domain reputation, with inbox providers, you can either drop me a text, drop me a message, email me at joshua@kronos.agency, and we'll figure it out for you. Or go into Google. Better yet, go into Google, go figure it out. Lots of articles, lots of resources out there. That's the first thing you want to fix. And then what you want to do is send a whitelisting email, automate this using flows on Klaviyo, automate this, a whitelisting email to your audience. Essentially what this does is you're getting people to whitelist your emails that you're about to send next by marking your emails as important. So what we did here on the right-hand side, it's a GIF in a GIF or a GIF. What we did was we screen recorded the process of marking our emails as important on various platforms, including mobile, desktop, Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo. Make it super easy for your customers to follow this and automate the whole thing. You only have to do it once. And now for every customer that uses an @Gmail account, they receive this email that looks like this. For every other customer that uses Yahoo and so on and so forth, they get a personalized one. This is by far one of the most tedious but most effective things that you can do for deliverability.
Will it help? Will deliverability be improved if they reply to the email as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just curious
100%.
because when we do our call, when we send out our email automation for letting people know that they have a call with us or whatever for my agency,
Yeah.
we always send people a message and we tell them to we send them an SMS and say, go check your email and reply confirmed. But then in the email, we tell them to reply confirmed if they see the message, if they are going to be able to make it to the appointment. But we do that so that we can help increase our deliverability, but also so that all of our future emails show up that we're going to send them in their inbox, and so that they actually make that like step of like, I'm confirming that I'm coming, and they're verbalizing it again.
100%. That's a really good one. I mean, in the agency space, that's even better because you're getting an additional layer of confirmation and commitment. But having people reply to your email, huge. If you're doing this for B2C with e-commerce, that's even more effective because you're getting this in volume at scale. So that's a great signal to a provider like Gmail. Here's a cool one. Now, if you're out of ideas, steal this. With emails, you run out of ideas pretty quickly, right? And that's why we have a massive team. There's brainstorming different ideas and approaches all the time. But here's one that really worked out well for us. This email generated 6 times higher than the average click rates in just one single email. And you can see that open rates were not that great, but click rates were phenomenal. So click rates, unlike opens, are independent of the volume of opens that you get. So click rates would be the number of clicks that you get over the total number of recipients that you get, and 7.2% clicked. The average was about 1%, 1 point something. This works really well because people want to feel like they belong. There's an affinity element to it. The zodiac sign or a horoscope email, right? Click here to reveal the recommended product for your horoscope. So if I'm a Libra or a Cancer, I'm going to click through and I'm going to see a collection of products that is made just for me. There's always that sense of, I'm curious about what people think about me, and this works incredibly well.
Yeah, and I feel like the other thing too is that it really aligns with the target audience as well, because you have to think about who's probably purchasing these hoodies. Is there generally people that probably watch Netflix or probably up on like the newest trends, which horoscopes are a huge trendy thing right now. They're probably scrolling on their Instagram because they found this trendy product on there. So it's something that's very like inside this niche of people for sure. Like that wouldn't work for like the furniture store necessarily, but for this,
you'd be surprised because this is such a wide, general, generic approach to engagement. It could work, right? What really sets I'd say what limits you in what you could do is really just brand guidelines and whether this fits in with the brand image or not.
Right.
But if this is out of bounds, you could always try this. Almost every brand that I know of have some sort of sale, and even just once a year. This is a fun one. This increases click rates by a mile. And instead of giving out a definitive 10% or 20% off, this works really well. Reveal your deal. Valid until midnight only. This was a killer.
And so they click on it and then they're given some random product that they get a deal on.
Exactly. And
it
doesn't even have to be
sorry, go ahead.
It doesn't even have to be a randomized one. It could be the same offer in the back end, but people just plays into curiosity. The curiosity side of things is huge when it comes to getting the right outcomes and more engagement. This is similar to if you use like one of the spin to win mechanisms on pop-ups. Same idea.
People like to gamble.
They like to gamble. Exactly. Plain text email. Here's the next one. Very easy, low-hanging fruit. If you've built a nice-looking email, send a second email to those who have not opened or clicked on the first email, and use a plain text retargeting email. Exact same offer. Just write it out. Keep it short. Maybe 3 to 4 sentences or paragraphs, and one link, and that's it. That
links reduce the amount of deliverability, right? Also, right? Like if you have a link in there. So do you ever send out emails that don't have links in it?
It does. So you could experiment with this, but what we found is that when we removed the link, the cost benefit analysis kind of thing, like how much more engagement are we getting versus how much are we losing out by not having the click-throughs, it just didn't make sense to us. So long term, kept the links, but the retargeting plain text email still did pretty well in generating the outcomes that we wanted it to. In fact, really well. Second email, 1.6% click rates. First email, pretty average, 0.9%. Like I mentioned, 1% is pretty average. And doubled almost the revenue that we generated from this one campaign. Pretty cool. So, and they were 2 days apart, right? So what I would have done is have this the following day instead. But this was still a great outcome from just one campaign. All right, here's a cool one. If you're writing blog posts, if you're putting out like super long form content in your emails, and having a copywriter come up with cool ideas, what you might want to do is split test against a shorter email where you are reserving the content of your email to a blog post on your Shopify site or your content delivery network of some sort. What we found is that by reserving content, by holding back on giving out too much, we saw a 5x, I'd say 6x increase in click rates. So this was a good A/B test. Only one variation, one variable, which was, do we keep the long ass content piece over here, or do we just take that away and keep that on site? And turns out having them on site works really well. Oh, and here's a fun one. This email is a welcome email, and the only difference that we made was the color of the CTA button. Only one. So pink against black versus black against pink. And this was a massive increase in click rate, 69%, doubled our place order rates. And now the website uses black CTA buttons across the board. So little tests like these can really make a huge difference. Don't underestimate the power of a small A/B test big impact.
That's cool. I love that.
But as a caveat here, the caveat is that you got to make sure that these tests are actually driving significant results versus just random variation, and it could have been either way type of situation. You don't need to understand the math behind this. If you do, great. But what I recommend is just going onto Google, looking up for a statistical significance calculator or A/B test significance calculator, and you'll find a bunch of options. I use the one by SurveyMonkey or neilpatel.com, and it'll tell you. It'll tell you whether your results are significant or not. And that's it. That's the power of A/B testing. And definitely, what I recommend you do is keep testing, never stop testing, and document everything, because you're going to learn, and these learnings compound on its own. And at the end of the year, after testing like 12 times once a month, you're going to have 12 data points of what resonates better with your audience, what converts better with your audience, and you're going to be able to create the best possible campaign, best possible emails the next year coming. And with that, if you are running an e-commerce agency and you'd like for us to take a look at any of your accounts, or if you'd like to refer us to any of your clients, the best way to do that is to drop me an email, joshua@kronos.agency. We'll take a look at everything, run through the setup, and create a blueprint, cool little blueprint, unpack all the opportunities, and present it in a nice little slide deck. And if we close the deal, you get 10% off the revenue. Nice little way to increase your margins. And that's
Love
it.
that.
Done.
Awesome. And so if you guys have any questions, feel free to start dropping those questions now. But before we get into any questions that you guys might have, if people want to, do you have your social media on there as well? Where can they follow you on socials if they'd like to?
I'm at Josh Chin with 2 N's. So JoshChinn on Instagram. Or if you Google Joshua Chin, probably find me everywhere. Or you could go to LinkedIn. Try and get better at LinkedIn. So Joshua Chin, you won't miss me.
Awesome. And really appreciate the value. I love numbers and AV testing. I think it's an underrated thing. I think people, especially when they're thinking about like design and things that are pretty, like emails or ad creatives or whatever, they tend to ignore the nitty-gritty details of numbers and data, and because they're like, oh well, this one looks pretty, so it has to convert well. And then I love the example that you showed of just like throwing plain text on there and sending it and being like, well, actually it didn't convert as well. So I think that's a cool perspective to people that are trying to make decisions, because I know, especially for me, when I've worked with like ad creatives and stuff, like I've spent tons and tons of money on ad creatives that ended up completely flopping and not working, and then another one that I spent 2 minutes on and edited it on my phone and then uploaded it, and it worked better than anything else, right? So I love the data driven approach of actually looking at the numbers and making sure that there's a significant difference in them, and then continually testing and trying new things, because even like you said, if something worked yesterday, next year it could not work, right? Like next year it could completely flop, and you're like, well, what's going on? This always works. And so I think that's why testing is important. It's good to have that first.
It's a journey. Yep.
What do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned in this past year of building your agency?
Man, here's the thing, and I don't think it's new, but hire good people and get out of their way. And that's the tough part, because as a small business, we're bootstrapped. We're not going to be able to compete with the giants of the world in terms of salaries, bonuses, compensation packages. But what we could do is career progression, freedom, autonomy, things of that nature, that the right candidate and the right talent would care a lot about. And the tricky part about hiring is that you're gonna make mistakes. I'm talking to myself here when I say that. You're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna make mistakes over and over again, and you'll find new mistakes over time that you gradually get better at. And the trick is to never give up on hiring good people, because it's a very easy kind of sinkhole to go into. When you make the wrong hiring decisions, you lose a couple $100,000 over the course of a year, and you go, I'm just a terrible hiring manager. I'm just a terrible recruiter. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to do it myself. And that's such a terrible spiral to get into. You have to take those mistakes on your chin and move forward and keep going.
And then one of the questions from the chat, I think most of your team is in person, correct? Or do you have a lot of remote people as well?
We're actually fully remote.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Fully remote.
So one of the questions is, where do you hire from the new trend?
Yeah, we hire a lot of people out of Southeast Asia. I'm based in Singapore. My team's in the Philippines, Malaysia. Malaysia is a good place for talent. Indonesia, and I want to say, no, actually, that's it. Yeah, Southeast Asian. That's pretty much it. And we have Australia, the US, we have a small team in EU, right around the UK area, and we have a couple more people kind of spread out across from New Zealand to South Africa. So the great thing about having a remote team is that you get to tap into talent from all around the world, and you're uncapped that way. But the tricky part is managing different time zones, cultures, and it all.
Yeah, and where do you tend to find these people? Like, do you go to like Fiverr, Upwork, onlinejobs.ph? Where do you normally go, or where do your recruiters go to find these people?
No, these days our in-house recruiters go on to LinkedIn a lot of the time. LinkedIn is where a lot of the active kind of hiring takes place.
Yeah.
But that being said, referrals drive a lot of our pipeline in the hiring side of things. Referrals, great way to grow the company, especially if it comes from a good employee. If you have a great team member, you want that person to hire their friends as well, because that's great people hang out with great people.
Very cool. I love that. Yeah, well, I think that's all the questions that we have in the chat. Josh, once again, thank you so much for coming out and offering that information up for us. It's super valuable, and I love to hear different perspectives from different people. That is why we bring guests. One of the things that I have all the guests do is I have them kind of offer 3 pieces of advice, whether you have experience with them or not, kind of what you think to the best of your ability or what you've heard. Before I get to that, we did have one more question from Aryan that says, how do you use AI in your agency? Use it.
How do you use AI in your agency? That's a good one. Well,
or are you using AI at all?
We are not on a massive scale, but our copywriters are using it. There's Jasper, Copy.ai, and a bunch of other tools. Our creatives are using it quite extensively. Our designers. So we have a team of 15, 16 designers. And that's just augments their production capability quite a fair bit. But that being said, it doesn't take away from having good processes and systems. That still is what we found to be fundamental. Outside of that, what we haven't yet done with AI is strategy work. And that's, we've been relying on our insights and our data across like 500 brands, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about the collective intelligence of the internet and being able to tap into AI to create a strategy that's way more robust, that's a different that's a different ballgame. We haven't really gotten that part yet.
Awesome. So inside the agency domain, I kind of refer to everyone in three different groups. The very beginning group are people that are just trying to get their agency started, that are trying to grow their agency,
Mm-hmm.
that are trying to get things rocking. I generally put them in the category of like 0 to 30K MRR. They're probably still doing the thing by themselves, don't have a ton of people on their team. The second category, I put those people into like they have a significant team like you. They're working on scaling past the 100K mark, and they're looking into separating themselves more from the business and scaling their business more. And then the third group that I put are people that are past that 7-figure mark and they are looking to eventually build their company into something that's exitable. I know that you haven't exited your agency yet, but just to the best of your ability, what are the 3 different pieces of advice that you would offer to each one of these groups?
That's a good one. For the first group, if you're starting out, my 2 cents, focus on doing really, really, really good work. Really, really good work, and let that be your calling card. Let that be your case study. It's really easy to get sucked into sell first and sell the service first and think about delivery later on. But that's a really easy way to get in a whole lot of trouble, because there's only so much you can do to save a reputation once it's damaged, and you do not want to have that as a starting point for your career. But as you kind of move past that initial stages, approaching 30K, getting some traction, hire as early as possible. Start getting rid of yourself and start moving up the ranks. And you have to promote yourself to the next level as quickly as you can, so that you're working on the next thing that would move the needle for the agency. The second group, if you're about to approach 7 figures or right around the 7 figures mark, what you typically find is that either systems are breaking down, what used to work isn't working anymore, or you just don't have enough. You just don't have enough brains, not enough lieutenants in a company. Lots of arms and legs, lots of people doing the work, but not enough strategists, thinkers, lieutenants.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do at that stage is relook at your org structure, and it's typically going to look something like this, like really narrow, probably like up top, very narrow, and then a wide base. What you're lacking is a middle management, and the middle management is going to allow for all the strategies and big ideas that you have to be translated into the ground and actually people doing the work for your clients and actually turning that into reality.
Mm-hmm.
The middle management is the toughest piece of the puzzle to fill, because you could always hire really great talent, very expensive. It's all just about finding the right people. And on a base level, really, it's about just going at scale and hiring fresh graduates or people who are looking for something exciting. But in the middle, what you often find is that these are folks that you have to grow from within, that understand your context and your systems and your people. So get there as soon as you can, build a middle management, whether that be through training and promotions, or start working with a recruiter to fill that gap.
Awesome.
And for the final one, if you're thinking about an exit, we've had a couple of conversations on that part of the journey, made a ton of mistakes. What I recommend you do is get that conversation out of the way as soon as possible, so that you know what buyers are looking out for. So speak with brokers, speak with consultants, speak with potential acquirers as soon as possible. And you can be upfront and you can say that, hey, look, I'm not looking to sell in the next 5 years or the next 3 years, but I'd love to understand where you're coming from and whether that's a fit for us to keep having a conversation. And most you're gonna have a couple of people that say, "No, yeah, don't bother me, don't waste my time." But you're gonna have a lot more conversations with people who are willing to share their insights, and that's the best way to learn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Josh. Really appreciate it once again. It's been great having you, and I really appreciate the insight and the value that you've brought to the group. So thank you very much.
Of course, man. Cheers.
Look forward to having you inside the group.
100%.
Bye bye. All right, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming. Super valuable session with Josh. Really appreciate his time. This is exactly why I bring so many different guests, not just kind of like once a month, a special guest here and there. I want to make sure that you guys are consistently hearing from high level agency owners to be able to get their 2 cents, to be able to understand and listen to their experience, because everyone's experience is different. Something that works for me could not work for you, that works for someone else, that couldn't work for someone else. Something that works for Josh could easily not work for you. So it's important to be able to get the 2 cents from people and to get experiences and hear their stories, hear their journeys, so that one, you can identify with them, and hear different journeys that maybe are similar to yours. And then from that, hear solutions that could help you out. But then also, it just gives you different perspectives, right? Like if I'm coming in here every week and telling you, you guys need to do this, this, and this, it might not work for you, right? It might not work for you as it worked for me. And I don't know everything. I'm not the smartest human on the planet. I'm not AI that can answer every single question that you guys possibly have. I have a limited understanding because I have a limited experience. Do I know a lot more than most of you? Sure. Do I know a lot more than other people? Sure. But the fact of the matter is, I want to bring experts in so that you guys can have access, one, to that network, but also to that information, because those are the two biggest things that you'll need in order to grow is network and the right information. You can get that from tons of different cookie cutter sources, but in the end of the day, if you go out and buy a course, that course is going to be laid out with a cookie cutter solution for you. If you come into this community, if you listen to the information, if you're listening to the guest speakers, if you're asking them questions, you're getting something that's personalized for you and that is going to be different on a case by case basis, because every single person is different. We have different types of businesses, we have different problems, we have different lifestyles, we come from different countries. So I want someone that brings different ideas and that are experts from every single part of the world, every single part of the journey. So really appreciate you guys coming in. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you are watching for the first time, this is the agency domain. What we do is we focus on bringing in the right network of people together that have the same philosophy on life, that are looking to grow in the same direction. And it's all in the agency space and growing marketing agencies, whether it's lead gen, Facebook ads, email marketing, SEO, Google ads, whatever it is. We're all looking to grow and scale our agencies. And then being able to have access to the right information, the right coaching, the right training that's specific and targeted for you, and offers you a wide range of solutions and ideas so that you can try them all and see which one works for you. But thank you guys so much for coming out today, and I will see you on the next one. Once again, many of you will watch, but very few of you will actually listen.